Dolphins lost the AFC East. Super Wild Card Weekend starts tomorrow. Ron Rivera's been fired. Arthur Smith's been fired. Pete Carroll's been fired. Mike Vrabel's been fired. Nick Saban retired. And Bill Belichick is out as Patriots head coach. I'm drowning in news here, people. The Denver Broncos have hired former Saints head coach Sean Payton, baby. Blair Holden. Ah! What the hell is pimento cheese? Tom Brady has announced his retirement from the NFL. For real this time. Come on, kick the field goal, take the points. Win the game. No, you have to say that. See you later. Welcome to Ruffing the Passer, show that talks football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I'm your host, Sam Ruffing, and this is episode 91. And as mentioned, there's been a lot of news this week. I don't think I'll be able to cover it all in this video because my mic is dying, but, you know, we'll do our damnedest. Starting off with the easily, not the most surprising, but definitely the biggest news of the week. Bill Belichick, longtime Patriots head coach, coached there for 24 seasons, bringing pain and misery to the rest of the NFL except for the New York Giants, has finally been fired after a horrendous 4-13, 5-12 season. I can't even remember. It wasn't good. I think it was 4-13. But man, that's it. His time in New England's over. It just feels strange. Very strange. I mean, there's no denying that he is one of the greatest head coaches in NFL history. Probably the greatest head coach in NFL history. There was no other man, head coach, who was as prepared as him, as patient as him, maybe not as smart, no one even close to as smart defensively as Bill Belichick. I mean, 6 Super Bowls in 24 years. At the Super Bowl every 4 seasons as a head coach. And yes, obviously he had Tom Brady, which helps a lot. But he's also the guy who drafted Tom Brady. He was the one who called Michigan's head coach and was like, I'm thinking about drafting Tom Brady. And the guy said to him, you will not regret drafting Tom Brady. Which he didn't, apparently. Won 6 Super Bowls with him. He had not one, but 2 separate dynasties in New England. I mean, he had the first, 4 years, first 5 years where he won 3 Super Bowls, 2 of them back-to-back, which was just mad. And then there was a long 10-year drought. Then he won another 3 Super Bowls in a 5-year span, every other year from 2014 to 2018, which is mad. I mean, he was a coach who was not only well prepared, but could make adjustments on the fly like no one else in the business. I mean, one week he could have his quarterback Tom Brady throw for 505 yards in the Super Bowl, which lost, obviously, but he'll have him throw for 505 yards in the Super Bowl, which is a record, while also in another game having Mac Jones throw all of 3 passes, run the ball like 41 times or something, and still win. There is no other coach who can just flip a script, who can change a game plan up completely differently. There is no head coach in the NFL, I think, who has ever... Well, there are head coaches, but there's no one who has had as much success as Bill Belichick. Being a head coach who just never had his team lose the game. Obviously, they did sometimes, but rarely were the losses on his own team because his team lost it. It was usually because if you were facing New England Patriots in the prime with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, you had to go into Foxborough or in the Super Bowl or wherever and beat them. You had to have David Tyree-like catches. You had to have Mario Manningham-like catches. You had to have a Philly special. Or just be the Denver Broncos to beat the New England Patriots. No, because he would just coach his teams to not let you ever have a chance at winning because they messed up. It would obviously happen occasionally, but he was like, boys, you have one job, do your job. Every player had a job. Right tackle, you block this guy. Left tackle, you block this guy. Center, you block this guy. Receiver, you run this route, you get a few yards, that's it. No need to do anything fancy. No need to make a spectacular play out of nothing. Just gain 5 yards, gain 10 yards. Gronk, go wild. Steven Gostkowski, make kicks. Adam Vinatieri, make kicks. That's it. He didn't ask anything of anyone more than they were needed of. I have no clue what I just said. I think it made sense. And obviously, having Tom Brady helped tremendously. No one's ever going to deny that. As we learned, Brady can go on his own and win his own Super Bowl. He was probably very much responsible for Belichick's great success in New England. However, there is no way Tom Brady was ever going to win 7 Super Bowls on his own without Bill Belichick. Let's just be perfectly honest here. As much as Brady would definitely win another Super Bowl with another team, as we saw in Tampa, he was just that committed, that focused. He's not winning 7 Super Bowls. I mean, Belichick's team gave Brady, when he was playing bad in like the first 3 quarters of Super Bowls, chances to win. I mean, stopping the greatest show on turf in their first ever Super Bowl, holding the Falcons to only 1 touchdown in the second half of Super Bowl 51 and just giving Brady a chance to come back. Like, what other coaches are going to do that? Who else out there is going to do that? Rarely anyone. Holding the Rams to 3 points in the Super Bowl. Giving Brady excellent field position in the playoffs time after time after time because Belichick was not going to have his team lose. He was just going to play, just, maintain standard football and let Brady do the rest. And as we saw with Brady without Belichick, those games that Belichick would normally, and he and Belichick would normally win, he did not win necessarily in Tampa. I mean, against the Cowboys in the wild card, the kicker misses 4 extra points. You know Belichick's going to pounce on that, Belichick and Brady. He didn't. You know that game against the Rams when the Rams are blowing it at the end to Tampa in the playoffs, only to find it on the final drive? That's not happening. That is not happening with Bill Belichick. The Rams are not winning that game. But the Buccaneers lost that game. It was just impressive to see a coach who just knew how to adjust, how to play it safe, play it smart. He was impressive. However, when he lost Tom Brady, when he lost that, all-time great quarterback, his system of just don't mess it up, don't make huge mistakes, kind of fell apart towards the end. Obviously, in 2020, they had no weapons. It was a weird year. Cam Newton was your starting quarterback. That one made sense to go 8-8, or was it 7-8-1? I can't remember. It wasn't a good record. But in 2021, he reloaded with Mac Jones. He gave him weapons like Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, and maybe one other. I don't know. Drafted Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, and they went 12-5, lost in the wild card. But after that season, it was never the same for Belichick. Let's just be real. And obviously, I can't cover Belichick's rise and fall in this one podcast. It's going to have to be an entire video essay, isn't it? Wonderful. But in 2022, when Josh McDaniels left and took, all the Patriots offensive staff with him, it's kind of like Belichick just kind of gave up. Or not really gave up, but didn't try. He just kind of relied on his own system a little too much. He thought he could put in Matt Patricia as OC and somehow make it work. and also not upgrade on the cache of weapons he had that he got signed in 2021. He didn't really sign anyone in 2022 except for Devontae Parker, who's slow but occasionally makes spectacular catches. And obviously that didn't go well. They went 8-9, and then it got worse in 2021 when he, yes, did hire Bill O'Brien, but didn't sign any weapons whatsoever. Like, at all. I mean, Zeke Elliott was the best thing that happened to the Patriots in 2023. Yeah, obviously they didn't win a lot of games. And, yeah, it was time to move on, because Belichick, for a man who was once great at adjusting on the fly, just winning week in and week out with completely different game plans, kind of got stuck in his ways a bit. He wanted to win with just fundamentals and, defense and just don't make any huge mistakes. And that's great. That is actually a amazing way to win just in sports in general, if you have a even competent offense. The Patriots didn't have anywhere close to a competent offense in 2023. Just nothing at all. I mean, as much as people rag on Mac Jones, who was he throwing to? Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, those are all right, but then Zeke Elliott, Demario Douglas, I don't know if that's his name, Romeo Douglas, whatever the heck his name is, Kendrick Bourne, and not even Nelson Aguilar, Jalen Reagor, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker. These are not number one guys. Nowhere close. And so those games the Patriots used to win, like the Philly game in week 1, that should have been a Brady-Belichick win, wasn't. The Miami game in week 2 should have been a win, wasn't. The Commanders game in week 9 should have been a win, wasn't. And the Chargers game was 6-0. Like, the Patriots should have won that game. They didn't. They lost to Brandon Staley. Just terrible, horrendously terrible. It was time for him to go because Belichick, what made him so great was that he obviously had all these fundamentals, but he was willing to change. He was willing to give experiments offensively or defensively a try. He would sign weird players like Darrelle Revis and win a Super Bowl with him. Martellus Bennett he'd trade for and make him a good tight end for a season. He was a really good tight end. I'm saying he'd win a Super Bowl with him while Gronk was down. In 2018, Sony Michel would lead the Patriots in touchdowns and in the playoffs. Like, he had six touchdowns or something wild on the ground and win a Super Bowl like that. In his modern, and obviously experiments didn't always work for Bill Belichick. Like, Chad Ochocinco failed. I mean, Antonio Brown worked for a week, but he had off-field problems. But those experiments Bill Belichick made trying to get pieces like a Randy Moss worked out or just signing good players in general worked out some of the time. He turned Julian Edelman from a quarterback into a great slot receiver, an all-time slot receiver. He a Super Bowl MVP. But in his recent years, he tried to do that slightly, kinda. But it didn't work out. He also didn't sign the stud players, the good receivers that he used to. Like, he tried, like, DeAndre Hopkins fell into the man's lap in free agency. All you have to do is sign the guy, and you improve your offense by like 3 wins, maybe even 5 wins. And he didn't sign him. Why would you not sign DeAndre Hopkins? But you'll sign a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster to $13 million a season. Why? So yeah, it was time for Belichick to go. But Belichick's going to move on to another team. We'll see how it works out. For his sake, I hope he learns from the mistakes he made in those years without Brady. Getting some weapons. Still maintaining his fundamental football, mind you. But getting some weapons. Getting a good running back, good O-line. And just like letting it rip a little bit. Let his quarterback play. And have some easy offense. You know. But yeah, it's interesting to see where he'll go. The Patriots just hired Gerard Mayo. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't think it'll go anywhere really. I mean, Gerard Mayo's like, I have no clue what he's going to be like. He was apparently in line to be the next head coach of the Patriots in his contract after Belichick was fired. I don't know. It's so strange. Just weird. But yeah, that's the Belichick news. And in other news, I felt a great disturbance in the dark side of the force, as if millions of fantasy owners cried out in cheer at the Atlanta Falcons firing Arthur Smith. This and the Ron Rivera firing made a lot of sense. They had a few years in their respective teams, Atlanta and Washington. They just kind of botched both their sides of the ball. Ron Rivera was a defensive guy who couldn't get the defense right, and Arthur Smith was an offensive guy who couldn't get the offense right despite having some of the best weapons in the NFL. You have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, not Drake May, and Bijan Robinson. And you're running jet sweeps with Jonnu Smith. Make it make sense, Arthur Smith. You had Derrick Henry in 2020 when he rushed for 2,000 yards. You don't think you learned a thing or two there? Honestly, makes no sense to me. But anyways, those firings made sense. What didn't make sense was the Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel firings. That made no sense to me whatsoever. Like, I get that Mike Vrabel, as a guy, had 2 back-to-back losing seasons. But Ryan Tannehill, his quarterback, also regressed mightily. He was without A.J. Brown, which may have been his fault or the other GM's fault. I'm not sure. But he also, this season, had a terrible roster. Derrick Henry's a bit on the decline. A rookie quarterback. And he did the best he could with it. It wasn't obviously brilliant all the time, but like, I thought you'd give him one more year. He's a great head coach. Players love him. What are you doing, Tennessee? Why are you firing Mike Vrabel? It makes no sense to me. And the Pete Carroll one also shocks me because, like, you know, everyone obviously thought that Russell Wilson would outlast Pete Carroll after the trade, but not after that first year. But the fact that they fired Pete Carroll before Russell Wilson has technically been cut by the Denver Broncos is rather surprising. Now, the Broncos should cut Russell Wilson, but I don't want to get into it. I mean, he got you back-to-back winning seasons, made the playoffs with Geno Smith, and you're firing him? He just rebuilt the team. He helped rebuild the team. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But I guess it was time to go. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And I think that's all I can do for this episode at this current moment because I'm running out of storage. So if this is the end of the episode, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. This has been Ruffing the Passer, episode 91, the show that was talk football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I am your host, Sam Ruffing, and I haven't even covered Nick Saban. I'm going to have to do that in a separate video. Please hit the subscribe button, share this with your friends and family, hit the like, hit the notification bell to know when all my uploads are uploaded. I thank you very much for watching once again, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.